Ladies and gentlemen, time for the final session of today. And let me just say that we all take risks in life, but not all of our risks end up in tragedies or really difficult traumatic situations. Our guest speaker today is a man who has been in the risk business for over 30 years. The story he will tell you has reached far beyond the narrow confines of his chosen profession to appeal to millions of people from all walks of life. We start this presentation with a brief explanatory video. Joe, you really haven't made my life any easier at all, but I just want to say a couple of things. You mentioned those 20 minutes as all of us were thinking in our heads about our transformative experiences. You know, in English, as well as in Polish, we have this proverb or saying that you can be an optimist or a pessimist. There is a glass half empty, half full. I think you have just added a third dimension to this dichotomy, haven't you? Now, interestingly enough, in the early 90s in Poland, there were those early American films available to Polish viewers. One of those films was Dirty Dancing. But the people who released this film thought that if we just translate Dirty Dancing as it stands, it will not be attractive to the audience and the marketing will not work. So eventually they translated this film as Swirling Sex. And of course, people went to cinemas to see this film. Similarly, your book, Touching the Void, is still touching a void in Polish, which means dotknięcie pustki, which is more or less the same in Polish. But when they did the film, they called this film not Touching the Void, but they called it Waiting for Joe. Now, do you think you could possibly comment on that?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'll tell you a story. This is the thing, other people, editors usually, they want to make their mark, you know, they want to change something, you know. So, for example, the Dutch book, Touching the Void translates perfectly well into Dutch, but they just called it Over the Rand, which means over the edge, which is hardly an inspiring title. I mean, Touching the Void actually means quite a lot. The void is death. I'm an atheist, and, you know, I used to be a Catholic, and when I lapsed, I thought, if anything really serious happens, will I go, I'll say a few Our Fathers and get out of here. And when I was in the crevasse, I didn't. I knew it all ended there. You know, at 25, that's the void that I was touching. So if you translate it into German, the word void in German is a bit more literal. And I think it's Grenz, something like that. But unfortunately, that translates as touching the hole.
Right, or maybe.
So we didn't do that. We called it something else.
Or maybe the producers were benevolent because once they said waiting for Joe, it would mean you would eventually come, wouldn't you? Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to ask Joe one question and then leave at least one question to you. Joe, now, if this experience had not happened, you would probably have climbed a couple more mountains and maybe had an interesting job in life. But as it turns out, this experience has been the transformative experience of your life. So my question is, how important do you think it is for people to actually consciously look for a transformative experience, for something that gets you out of the system, out of the routine? Look for something that really defines your life consciously. How important is it? Because you have...
Well, it's important, but don't look for one like this. Jesus, no. I mean, the thing is that it's a two-edged sword, actually, because I never climbed quite as seriously as I did before. And so the accident I never discovered my full potential as a mountaineer, and I've always regretted that. But I would have never discovered I could write. It was almost like a phoenix out of the ashes thing, so it took that away, but I discovered I could write, and I've now written 8 books, and some of them have won awards and whatever, and I find writing as challenging, more frightening than climbing, makes you more vulnerable, but it's a wonderful thing to do, and it's led into making films. Public speaking is one of the most frightening things you can do. It's of all the phobias, the third phobia is fear of death.
Tell me more.
The second phobia is fear of losing a loved one, and the worst phobia by far is public speaking. And so I would have done none of these challenging things if that hadn't happened. But you still have to do it yourself. You know, you've got to write the book. You've got to stand on stage. So, yeah. I mean, there's transformative and there's transformative. I'm not entirely sure this was transformative. I think this was just bloody painful.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I just can't deny you the opportunity to ask Joe a question or two. So who'd like to go first? Yeah, you're all speechless, I understand that. Do we have a question from the audience?
Shall we go and have a beer?
Speechless it is. Thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you
a
very
round
much.
of applause, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.